He's going to make tech great again.
First of all, Facebook is the steward of the information that's put on their site. And the fact that they allowed other companies to read private messages.
Ooh, I like that. The social lobotomy. Yeah, let's get cracking on that.
Raising kids and everything today, you really have to try and educate them as to how to use social media because it will come back to bite them at some point in their lives.
I do also try and think before I tweet. We're Facebook. We're here to teach you about privacy.
Yeah, Backpack Studio was in beta and it just got released to the App Store, $9.99. It's very similar to the Boss Jock Studio that we all remember.
The whole computing era is based on algorithms and how things move and how things work and doing any kind of data mining and data manipulation.
I can't use voice command to operate the Sonos to play Apple Music.
Both Face ID and Touch ID on the same iPhone.
The latest fall edition update, I think Narrator just continues to get better and better. I do not finish training with any of my students anymore without giving them some kind of introduction to how to use Narrator.
To have a 2018 end-of-the-year SmackDown between the Mac and the PC.
Now, if you're a transition age student and you're going to be transitioning from high school to college to the workplace, I would highly suggest that you look into the accessibility of the screen readers like Navigator, JAWS, NVDA.
JAWS, which has been cost prohibitive for so many people for so long, coming out with a subscription model, I just think that we're heading in the right direction.
Aira boxing. Yeah. Put on the gear, you're wearing the glasses.
Everybody ready?
Yep.
Let's do it.
Got my water. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to our end of the year episode for That Blind Tech Show. We're creeping into that holiday season. In fact, some of those holidays have probably already passed since we've released this. With us today, as always, is Mr. Midwest, Mr. Minnesota, Jeff Thompson. How you doing today, Jeff?
I'm doing great, Brian. Doing great.
And with us today, a big surprise for the listeners out there. In fact, some of you who know this gentleman might think you're listening to the Bizarro Seinfeld episode, but the Bizarro That Blind Tech Show, my colleague from a little show called iAccessVO, Mr. Ed Plumacher. How you been, Ed? What's going on with you?
I'm good, Brian. How you doing? Jeff, great to be on with you again.
Nice to hear your voice, Ed.
I'm getting a little verklempt here. I'm getting goosebumps. Something's tingling and everything. It's just odd to be on with both Jeff and Ed. So all those vicious rumors out there on the internet that Ed was dead, not true.
Brian, that tingle might be your catheters loose. I don't know.
Oh. Taking low blows already. You see what I have to put up with, Ed? I have to put up with this every episode.
Yeah, but it's well deserved, I'm sure.
Though Ed and I have not been on the podcast circuit together in quite a while, Ed has been quite busy career-wise, helping a lot of blind New Yorkers. Why don't you tell the good listeners, Ed, what you've been up to?
Well, you know, I had taken a position at the Lighthouse Guild in New York City as the adaptive technology specialist. And, it just got really busy going into mid-year last year. So I guess it was in May, June, because we were preparing for a huge move. They had sold the building we were in, and we all had to move to a new location, which meant dismantling the computer center and then having everything moved over and then reassembling everything and making sure it all worked. So it got a little stressful. Got a lot of busy, and just had to take a hiatus from the podcast world for a while. Once we got in there, and then we bid and won the new state contract for New York State. So we service all 5 boroughs in New York, doing all the technology training for blind, visually impaired under contract with New York State. So things have been really, really hectic.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. That's awesome. I've heard you're doing a great job over there. And as a New Yorker who moves every few years and just moving in an apartment, I can't begin to imagine what a nightmare scenario that entire move was.
Yeah. I mean, I knew this was going to be a moving story.
Oh, Jeff, you're here too. I forgot about that. But we've got some moving news, as some of you have already joined up. We have launched That Blind Tech Show, the Facebook page, because as we've all discovered, even though they keep selling our information, that Facebook thing doesn't go away. You could just go on to Facebook, find that search box, type in That Blind Tech Show, and you'll find us. But we're going to start off with iOS updates, because they keep coming. 12.1.1, 12.1.2, and one of the things I'm a big fan of using is vertical navigation, and I've noticed this on multiple devices. So some of you might be having this issue where after you do an update, all of a sudden vertical navigation just completely stops working. What I discovered, if you power off the phone and then power it back on, vertical navigation will start working immediately. So just a little helpful hint for you. Ed, I know you're rocking some of those iOS devices. Do you use vertical navigation?
I do on occasion. I mean, I have a lot of clients when they're first learning that I tell them just stay away from that until you've been a little more experienced with this. But it is good practice anyway. Whenever you do any kind of an update on an iOS device, always shut down the device after the update's been loaded and then restart it, and you'll have a lot better experience that way.
That's a really good tip. Can one of you guys explain what vertical navigation is for the iOS?
Sure. I use it primarily because we know 80% of my wake time I'm using the fantastic Yahoo Fantasy Sports app. And in that app, you have a lot of information, and if you flick left or right, how most of us do it, you'll land on a player's name, but next to it you have an edit button. So if I want to quickly go through the app, I could just use that vertical navigation and it'll go from player to player and skip me over. So I'm doing one less flick. The only problem with vertical navigation is it will land you sometimes in the tabs in the bottom. So I know I could do on my iPhone about 4 vertical navigation flicks down, then I have to flick right and it resets it and everything. So it's just a way of speeding up your performance, and in some apps I find it absolutely extremely useful, in other apps not so much. Some people can use it on the home screen. If you're one of those people that likes to flick from app to app, left to right, if you do use vertical navigation, you'll just flick down a row and everything, so it does speed that up.
So you may be wondering, what is vertical navigation and how do you set it up on your device? And you're going to find vertical navigation in your rotor settings. And what the rotor is, it's a dial type of gesture, like you're twisting on a cap to a tube of toothpaste or twisting it off. Depending on which direction you go, your index finger and your thumb would be on your screen, and then you twist. And that allows you to turn on and off or adjust certain voiceover commands, such as your volume, your speech rate, your ducking, and vertical navigation. Now I'm going to use the rotor gesture on my home screen, and you'll see what options I will have in my rotor that I can employ.
Headings, characters, words, speaking rate, volume, audio ducking, sounds, hints, language.
Now I'm going to dig into my settings and show you exactly where I can get vertical navigation put into my rotor. So let's go into settings.
Settings.
And then down to general.
General.
And then to accessibility.
Accessibility.
And then to voiceover.
Voiceover on button.
Now this seems deceiving because it says on. It's just letting you know that it is turned on. But if you do a single finger double tap, you'll go into the voiceover settings.
Voiceover.
And then we'll go down to rotor.
Rotor button.
And this is the one you want. But right after it, you'll find
rotor actions button.
And that is for allowing you to rearrange the icons on your homepage. So let's go back.
Rotor button.
Do a single finger double tap, and we're in the rotor section. What you'll find here are various types of actions that you can have put into your rotor.
Selected characters. Reorder characters button. Draggable.
And you can arrange these by moving them up and down so they're in some form of organization that makes sense. Like, do you want it to speak character, word, line? Those are things that I have all right in a row. And if you want to find out more about how to move your rotor settings up and down and rearrange them into an efficient order, you can check out the iPhone 101 series on the Blind Abilities website. And there's a link in the show notes. So back to vertical navigation. So if we go down near the bottom, we're going to find vertical navigation.
Vertical navigation.
Do a single finger double tap.
Selected vertical navigation.
And now you will have vertical navigation as an option in your rotor. Now the thing to remember is your rotor does know where you are if you're on a web page or if you're on a document. So it's not going to give you certain things that you don't need when you twist, because you would have all of these on there and you don't want to twist 32 times just to get to the next thing that you want. It is pretty much specific to what you are engaged in that will pop up on your rotor. So vertical navigation, you'll twist, you come to vertical navigation, and then you'll flick up or flick down. Your cursor will then move down lines, or like in a table, down through a column, whereas horizontal navigation would go left to right or right to left. So this might help you in some areas. Give it a shot, give it a try, and see if it works for you.
You're a horizontal kind of scroller, aren't you, Jeff?
Oh, I had my day back in the day, but yeah, lately it's been predominantly horizontal scrolling.
Now, this next story, I'm betting if he used an iPhone with VoiceOver, you'd really have to explain vertical navigation to him. Because some guy by the name of Donald J. Trump just released a tweet that says he knows technology better than any person in history, which caused me to tweet out, I would pay to have this man use VoiceOver and just listen to it. What are your thoughts on this, Ed? Trump, does he know technology better than any person in history?
Well, we all know that the Donald likes to be bombastic, and he likes to always over-exaggerate and take things to the nth degree. So, everything is the best, everybody's the best, everything he does is the best. So I guess if he's going to do technology, he's got to be the best.
He's going to make tech great again.
That's true. That is true. I believe that's his slogan. Yeah, this just cracked me up. I think he basically was using this line to say the wheel was the greatest technology invention of all time, and number 2 is a wall. We're not going to go political with that, but anytime anybody that boasts on Twitter about being the greatest at anything, I have boasted that I am the greatest in the world ever at using VoiceOver. True or false, Ed?
Yeah. Yes, you have. But the difference is, you may reach a few thousand people, and he's reaching 48 million.
Hey.
All due to the courtesy of the invention by Al Gore, though.
Yeah, it is true.
Yes, let's not forget old Al.
Yes, it's amazing what these politicians think. Although, I guess they're a little better than Congress, where you have to explain to them that an iPhone is not Google.
Yeah, they didn't know the difference between the two. That was kind of funny.
Yeah.
They don't know what a budget is. Why should they know what an iPhone is?
As somebody who works in stand-up comedy from time to time, I am beginning to get a little worried because some of the stuff I'm hearing out of Congress is just absolutely hilarious. So I think they're threatening my career performance and everything with some of the stuff that they've had coming out recently. So I love funny articles, and I always kind of know where everything is. So this next story really had me laughing. Ed, did you hear that on a recent Southwest flight, somebody actually left a human heart behind?
Yeah, I've left luggage and things like that on airlines before, or a jacket, but I've never left my heart.
You know, when you go out, Jeff, and you think, you're like, oh, did I remember my wallet? And you're doing that pat around. What do you think the guy that left this human heart was doing? Where was he patting and everything?
Oh, I go through that all the time, Wallet, keys, iPhone, yep, got it. Boarding pass, got it. Heart, oh no, heart, honey.
One of the interesting things in the early articles, they couldn't figure out where the heart had came from because traditionally they don't carry hearts on commercial airline flights. It ends up that, I guess, plane had just been used for a private flight. Fortunately, the good news for this story, the heart did get to the individual in time. They turned the flight around and got it back to, I believe it was Seattle.
Well, how would you like to be the TSA guy? Because obviously the guy had to carry it on.
How about the pilot coming over the loudspeaker announcing, "This is your pilot speaking. We need to return to the airport. Somebody left a human heart on board."
I can see the new movie coming out, Heartless in Seattle.
Maybe you should be doing the comedy, Jeff. I mean, come on, that was a good one.
Well, I used to be a politician, but now I am the comedian, Brian.
Oh, that is true. It wouldn't be a new That Blind Tech show if we didn't have yet another negative Facebook story. I mean, I do love Facebook, but I never post anything public out there too much, although, of course, today I posted something that I'll get into a little later. But Ed, the Facebook just keeps continuing to sell your private information to companies. What are your thoughts about this? And is Facebook solely to blame? What about the companies that said, yeah, we'll take the information?
Well, first of all, Facebook is the steward of the information that's put on their site. And the fact that they allowed other companies to read private messages that you would think were between, one or two people, that floored me. I mean, going in and seeing people's pictures or seeing what groups that they want to click on and like and things like that is one thing. But when you start getting involved in private conversations and having other third parties read that, I think they really crossed the line this time.
Yeah. Jeff, all those R-rated messages you sent to me privately, I think Amazon's been reading them.
Well, I hope Amazon does collect all those and puts them in a collective on Audible, 51 Shades of Podcasting. I think that's going to be great.
Yeah, privacy is dead.
Well, the whole thing with social media it's incredible. I mean, Brian, who was the comedian? Was it last week or so? He got the gig to host the Oscars, and then within 24 hours, because of some tweets he put out 7 or 8 years ago, he just bowed out.
That's an interesting topic that I didn't think of. That was Kevin Hart, and we've all said stupid things. Fortunately for us, we're all so old. Twitter didn't exist. If Twitter would have existed when I was 16, there would have been a lot of stupid things I would have tweeted. Everyone is not a mature adult when they're 14 years old and tweets out something they regret. And I noticed it even with the latest Heisman winner. They went back to like when he was 14, 15 and pulled up some negative tweets about a certain group of individuals and everything. I mean, even if you're a good person now, should you be held responsible for something you tweeted 5, 6 years ago, Jeff?
Well, kind of, yeah, 5, 6 years. I mean, if your name's on it, it's your account. If they can attach it to you somehow in the public sphere, yeah, they're going to do that. I mean, like you said, when we were younger, no, unless they actually go get the metal wall from stall number 3 of my high school bathroom. That's the only place I shared anything publicly. Probably shouldn't have wrote it in Braille, eh? And these authors of these Christmas songs that they're now ripping apart, they're probably rolling over in their grave, but at least they don't have to deal with it.
It was the night before a holiday that we could all celebrate in unison. That just doesn't sound right. I'll tell you, if we could create an app that completely wipes and scrubs your social network when the clock strikes midnight for the past year, that'd be fantastic, although then we wouldn't get those really annoying Facebook memories popping up and everything. So
what you're calling it is a social lobotomy, huh?
Ooh, I like that. The social lobotomy. Yeah, let's get cracking on that. Either that or have like a Y2K type thing happen every year where nothing happens and everything.
Yeah, I think one of the other issues you have with that, though, Brian, is when people release things, other people are doing screenshots of it. So even if you go back and you delete your tweet, it's still there. And it's re-released, re-put out there. So, the key is that, raising kids and everything today, you really have to try and educate them as to how to use social media, because it will come back to bite them at some point in their lives.
And for all of you out there listening, if you know someone that needs a few lessons in social media, you can always fall back on Donald Trump's Social Media for Dummies. He wrote it himself.
The thing that you really need to do, and it's tough because I'm guilty of it, mine is mainly, spewing anger at a company for accessibility. But say I apply one day for a mainstream job, I'm sure they'll find my tweet and say, wow, this guy's had some anger issues with some companies about accessibility. It's going to come back to haunt me probably. So always think before you tweet.
So let me ask you a question, Brian. We've had some conversations recently regarding how the optimism seems to be creeping into your social backbone and your life and how things are doing well. Have you noticed a diminished amount of those quote-unquote angry tweets?
Jeff will say, no, not directed at TiVo. They've gone down, and I do always start off in a positive manner, but when I don't get their attention, that's when some words you'll never hear on this podcast may creep into my vernacular. But no, they are less and less, and a lot of it has to do with these companies doing a better job, I think, today of accessibility and being responsive. Some companies that I'm really angry at who just don't care about improving their accessibility have diminished greatly and everything. I do also try and think before I tweet. There were a lot of angry tweets about the Yankees this postseason, which had a lot of 4-letter words. And
I really like what you just said there, Brian. Finally. Think before you tweet.
Every now and then, every millennium, I have a good nugget come out. Yeah.
It is the holiday season. He just gave a good nugget there.
I did. Yeah, no, it's wise advice. Of course, I don't always take that advice, and
Hey, Brian, let me ask you a question. Did you take the Mastering Social Media course from Trump University?
No, but I am the greatest at everything. And unlike Trump, I know how to spell. But in New York here, I love a good pop-up sale, or we've got pop-up people acting in Times Square. But this story, which you guys did not see because I just found it at the last minute, Facebook is popping up in Bryant Park in New York with a privacy tent, Ed, where people could come in and learn how to better improve their Facebook privacy. Did you even hear about this?
No. And how are they going to do that when they turn around and teach you what you think are good practices, and then they turn around and let other people look at your work anyway?
Well, the best part is they didn't promote this in any way. They just popped up and said, we're Facebook, we're here to teach you about privacy. And all it turned out to be was a big media gathering and people trying to get in from the cold while shopping. So I don't really think it was too useful. And I did hear they had 2 tables with information, Jeff. One table was all about how to better protect your privacy. And shocking, the other table had pamphlets about advertising on Facebook. Is that shocking to you, Jeff?
Well, I think they're making all that information available now to everybody, so I don't think it's that private anyways.
They're selling it out the back door.
Yeah, right out the back door.
So yeah, I just thought that was funny. A Facebook pop-up privacy tent.
The Facebook privacy tent comes with 7 back doors, 3 trap doors, and a partridge in the pear tree taking pictures.
I would love to walk in there and say, oh, what's Facebook? Explain this Facebook thing to me. And do it real slow because I'm not that smart. So.
And what do you mean Hillary lost?
We try not to spread that fake news on That Blind Tech Show, Jeff. In fact, if you think that we're spreading fake news, we want to hear from you. Shoot us in an email at thatblindtechshow@gmail.com. Reach out to us on our Facebook, but your information might get sold. Or tweet us in on that other social network at Blind Tech Show. So that's how you can get a hold of us in any fashion. Now, Jeff, I knew you're a big fan of Apple Music, and Amazon just rolled out the A-Lady with Apple Music. Only problem is it didn't come to all third-party speakers, but they're promising it will shortly. What are your thoughts about first using Apple Music on some of your A-Lady devices?
That's a neat point to the whole thing. I was excited about it, so I checked it out on my quick little Amazon device, and it worked. I set it all up, but when I went to my Sonos, this does not work on this device, So I went into the app. Now I can operate it from the app. So if I open up my Sonos app, I can set up the Apple Music there and play and do anything I want with it. But I can't use voice command to operate the Sonos to play Apple Music library. So they say it's coming though, so I don't know when. It's kind of one of those things. The API that they put in some of these devices is, it's just a little bit shortcoming from what they have in the Amazon devices. So I hear some people are actually moving over more towards the Amazon in their entire house so they can have full access.
Yeah, and did I read a vicious rumor that you bought those Sonos devices from the Allison Hartley Museum of Technology?
Actually, they were closing the West Wing as they're revamping it for all new Amazon devices.
Yeah, so Ed, are you an Apple Music subscriber or Amazon Music subscriber?
Amazon. I gave up on Apple a long time ago. So, I keep all of my music library stored in Google Music because I'm able to upload it and keep it in the cloud to save it as a backup. And then I can access it that way as well. And then I use being an Amazon Prime member and then subscribing to Amazon Music. It just seems to work better in my house.
As someone who hasn't listened to any new music since 1994, I too am subscribed to the Amazon Music because it's just so great to say, hey lady, play this song. And I live in the Sonos environment now, so it's funny, since I've had them, I've still yet to really listen to any music on them. But
all you do is listen to John Bon Jovi.
Whoa! Living on a prayer, living on a prayer, prayer. Whoa! That's right. I forgot I'm banned from singing on this show, Ed. So this next story really got my juices going, Jeff. Apple just took out a patent that's showing both Face ID and Touch ID on the same iPhone. For someone like me that refuses to dive into the 10 product line because I just don't like that Face ID, I want my home button. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, it got me thinking. Now, if you want to do a selfie kiss, would that be facial and touch at the same time to your phone? Would that start it up? Because I am not really liking the facial recognition thing, because as I was losing sight and all that stuff, I started bringing the phone and my devices closer and closer to my face. So now I have to get used to this thing of starting it up and holding it an arm's distance away from my face and aiming it at my face. You know, I'm so used to having that phone close, like a visually impaired blind guy. So it's a little awkward, and I'm slowly getting used to it, but sometimes I fidget with it and I cuss about it, and I want my button back, yeah.
Yeah, Jeff, if you're doing selfie kisses, does Lori have you sleeping in the next bedroom?
No comment.
No comment. Ed, I know you're rocking one of those older iPhones with that sweet home button. What are your thoughts about Face ID and the home button? Cats and dogs living together. What are your thoughts about all this merging?
Well, I've read about the technology to be able to do the fingerprint recognition on just the glass 2 years ago, and I thought they would have come out with it a little bit sooner. So I have no problem at some point porting over to the new X phones, and then as long as I have the ability to put down a fingerprint or a thumbprint. The facial recognition thing, not so much for me.
Yeah, I would even take my voice is my passport for facial ID. It's just, I'm not a fan of not having that home button.
Yeah, that works with my Amazon device. I mean, she recognizes my voice, especially when I order things online.
Really? You do your shopping over the A-Lady, don't you?
Yes.
Since we're recording this podcast, can I have you say a few quotes for me?
What, you want my credit card number?
My name's Ed. Order me a Ferrari.
And ship it to Minnesota, right?
I see, said the blind man.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but in all the snow in winter, you'd only be able to get it up to 4 miles an hour. So what's the point of having? It's almost as dumb as having a Ferrari in New York City. Every time I hear somebody's driving a Ferrari around downtown Manhattan, I'm like, why? Why would you do that?
Ed, when you're talking about ordering stuff on Amazon using your voice, do you apply the passcode too?
I did, but I took it off when it started doing the voice. So, it will only accept the order from me, I'm assuming.
And so you went through the training process there in the app, right?
Yes, yeah. It was pretty simple.
That's good. So if you want your Amazon device to recognize your voice, open up your Amazon A-Lady app. In there, click on Menu.
Menu button.
And go down to Settings.
Settings button.
And then into
Alexa account.
2-finger double tap. And then go down to Settings.
Settings.
And we'll single finger swipe left to right.
Recognized voices.
2-finger double tap.
Create a voice profile so Alexa can call you by name and improve personalization based on your voice. Link.
2-finger double tap.
Welcome, Jeff.
I've already done this, so it recognizes me. And here are some of the options that you can do with your recognized voice.
Alexa calling and messaging. Alexa can send and play your messages without asking who you are. Voice shopping with Alexa. Shop confidently knowing Alexa recognizes your voice. Say, Alexa, order laundry detergent. By tapping Begin, you agree to the Alexa Terms of Use link and authorize Amazon to create a voice profile. Your voice profile will be stored in the cloud. Begin button.
And from here, your device will take over and you'll finish up.
Great, let's get started. Alexa is now ready to get to know you on any supported device. Link, optimized for voice. Within the next 5 minutes. 1. Mute all other nearby devices. 2. Talk in a quiet place. 3. Get within 1 to 5 feet of your device. 4. Ask Alexa, learn my voice. Then just follow Alexa's directions.
And after you go through this procedure, we can also set up purchase by voice since we have a voice profile. So if we go back to the settings, we'll find
voice purchasing.
With a single finger double tap.
Voice purchasing settings.
Since I previously set up voice purchasing, this is how mine reads.
Purchase by voice checkbox checked.
And if you want to purchase by voice, this is where you would do a single finger double tap to check the box.
Enable Amazon purchases and payments by voice on your Alexa enabled devices. View one-click preferences. Visited link.
And they give you another level of security by putting in a 4-digit code, just in case someone sounds just like you.
Voice code. Voice code checkbox checked. Require the 4-digit voice code to confirm Amazon purchases and payments. Recognized voice. Enable recognized voices to skip giving the voice code if they have previously given it. Checkbox unchecked.
So if you're interested in having your Amazon device recognize your voice to make purchases, go right ahead. Set up the security as you desire, and happy shopping.
I stopped using the voice ordering through the A-Lady when it sent me the wrong dog treats, even though I was reordering the same ones I had and everything. And those dog treats were for me, not for Nash, of course. I was a little disappointed in the taste. They were a little too bacony and everything. So Ed, Boss Jock, which you introduced me to years ago when we were doing iAccess VO, has now become Backpack Studio. Isn't that correct, Jeff?
Yeah, Backpack Studio was in beta and it just got released to the App Store, $9.99. It's very similar to the Boss Jock Studio that we all remember. It's a little bit different, so it takes a little bit getting used to, and I've been kicking it around. I like it a lot, and I'm glad we were able to give a shout out to them because it's a good recording device, and a lot of us do like to record, and Boss Jock kind of fell to the wayside about not being updated to like Dropbox and stuff like that. So this is a good replacement for it. Backpack Studio.
Yeah, I got so confused, Ed, when Ed introduced me to it. It was like cart 1, cart 2, cart 3, and I felt like my head was going to explode. So I'm interested to check out the new design, and that's great that Backpack Studio continues to make the app fully accessible for voiceover users.
There's one trick that I would suggest to people to get used to it. You could use like a rubber band or have a identifier on your case or something. And if you're only going to use 3 of the carts, you can put them in strategic places by putting a rubber band around. That'll draw a line, and then you can identify where these are and find them real quick. It is a little tricky, if you're going to use how many carts you're going to use, but it's a neat recording device where you can do sound on sound. So it's really cool.
Yeah. That type of application is really good if you're doing like a live stream or you're recording it and having it streamed out immediately. The carts work well for that. It also saves some editing time if you're able to do some drops without having to do them later.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Now, I've always had trouble making decisions. I mean, my mom told me going back to when we were little kids, my sister and me, we'd head into Cumberland Farms and Mom would say 1 candy, and my sister would run up, pick a candy, and be at the counter. And I'd be there going, well, if I get this one, I get more of this, but this one tastes better. And could never really make a decision until my mom would say, Brian, if you don't pick one now, we're leaving without any candy. And of course, I always got my candy. So Ed, now that algorithms can make decisions for people, is this a good thing?
Well, algorithms have been making decisions for people for decades. I mean, the whole computing era is based on algorithms and how things move and how things work and doing any kind of data mining and data manipulation and output. It's just that we're coming into it a lot more in real time in general population applications on smart devices. It's just the way things are going to go.
So you're saying if Brian was 7 in 2018, I could use an algorithm to make that difficult candy selection for myself.
You would have said to your smart device, which candy should I have today? And it would probably take some feedback from your mood and how things were going and what you had last time and pick something.
Mm-hmm. Actually, Brian, the rest of this podcast is completed with our algorithm that we created before the show.
That's true. It's selected, instead of me putting the outline together, I'm using an algorithm 2.0 to make the selection of topics we're discussing. The thing that does scare me, though, Jeff, is algorithms making decisions about who's good for credit, because my credit score is in the excellent rating, and I use Credit Karma, which I suggest everybody out there use to monitor their credit, and I'm supposedly eligible for every credit card out there, yet my own bank, due to an algorithm they use, just rejected me for a credit card. So what are your thoughts about credit bureaus as they've been exposed making some bad decisions for people with credit using an algorithm?
Brian, I really don't have any means of checking my credit score other than when I showed up at Kohl's and wanted 30% off if I got the credit card. So I got the credit card, got 30% off, I passed. I feel good about it. Now, algorithms is a way of predicting the probabilities into the future. So you could set a price because what will probably happen, what tendencies are going to happen. And so I don't know what's happening with you, but your bank really knows you better than all the rest, it sounds like. But I look at algorithms as the crystal ball into the future.
Yeah.
Ed, have you ever been screwed by an algorithm? screwed over?
No, I can't think of a scenario where I can say I have been, but I know that they exist for a reason. And remember something, if you're using an algorithm, it's tweaked to benefit the person who is using it. So if it is the bank, it's protecting the bank. If it's the insurance company, it's there to try and protect the insurance company. And it's based on dealing with large populations of people. So yes, are there going to be some individuals out there who will feel like they're unfairly treated? Absolutely. But that's one of the good things you can do about questioning things and picking up the phone. And actually, you can't do that with banks anymore. You can't get a person on the phone.
It's kind of like the predictability of an algorithm in Vegas. I mean, odds are it's in their favor.
Yeah, and the reason Ed's probably never been screwed over by an algorithm is he's not a 11-year-old babysitter, because this next story has to be one of my favorite stories of the year. I mean, what kind of person comes up with an algorithm that seeks out 10, 11, 12, and 13-year-old girls to dig up dirt on them to suggest to parents about their babysitting skills, Jeff?
Well, first of all, babysitters I don't think are really gender-based, but yeah, to have someone stalking teenagers to see if they qualify to be what they consider a good babysitter or be a bad babysitter, it's just
creepy.
Yeah. This never launched. This never went through, but they think they had to go back to the drawing board. I think actually they should make them stay after school and clean the chalkboards and clean the erasers. Bad developer. Bad.
Yeah, not all ideas with technology are great ideas, right, Ed?
That is absolutely right. And I was thinking the same thing you just verbalized. Just creepy. Absolutely creepy.
Yeah, very, very creepy. And we'll put the article in the show notes. Basically, they were digging up stuff from these young people's social media. Supposedly, it just had some very, very bad results. And the whole thing seemed like it was just a very poor idea. Yeah, it's amazing what people will come up with these days. And we've now gotten to a point, we're very excited to have Ed here because Ed is on the dark side. He's a PC user. So we thought it would be wise, and Jeff is our referee, to have a 2018 end-of-the-year SmackDown between the Mac and the PC. Ed, you're spending a lot of your time these days working with clients, I believe with JAWS as well as Windows Narrator. What are your thoughts as we close out 2018 first, I guess, with where JAWS is at these days?
I think JAWS has really done and does do a lot of work to maintain the proficiency and accuracy of their system and how it works and how it integrates with all the different technology out there. In fact, we're doing this show on a Friday. The upcoming Monday, it's a delayed release, but they're having an update to their fall release coming out. So they've apparently corrected some bugs that existed and got everything back working again. So
now I have to stop you. Will JAWS clients have to pay for that updated release?
No, okay. No. They come up with updates all of the time. I think what's unique about them is they've come out with a new program where you can actually do an annual subscription payment, and that's available now. So people can actually go to the Freedom Scientific site, go to the e-store, and they can actually get JAWS for an annual fee as opposed to, spending $1,000 to $1,400 to buy the home or pro versions of that product.
$90.
$90. Yeah. Can I pay that in pennies?
I don't think you can pay it in pennies, and you can't pay it in Bitcoin.
I think that subscription package has definitely piqued my interest. I have never used JAWS, and yes, I admit that publicly. What are your thoughts about where Windows Narrator is at the close of 2018?
Yeah, I think that the latest fall edition update, I think Narrator just continues to get better and better. I do not finish training with any of my students anymore without giving them some kind of introduction to how to use Narrator as a backup to their JAWS subscription. Because there are occasions where your JAWS could fail, your voice may stop, or you may get stuck in something where you just can't get around it. So it's always good to use the tools that are available to you, and it's built into the operating system. It's free, doesn't use a lot of resources, and it's a quick keyboard command to activate it and to turn it off again.
And Ed, what is that keyboard command for the PC users?
Okay, so it is Control, Windows, and Enter.
Putting them on the spot there. I didn't think the referee's job was supposed to put people on the spot.
Well, here's one for on the spot. Where is the Windows key?
So the Windows key would be your command key on your Mac keyboard. So Control, Command, and Enter.
This reminds me of the person that called up the help desk and asked, I can't find the any key.
My favorite story I heard from a tech advisor was a guy called up Microsoft, and their computer wouldn't turn on, and they were running him. They were asking him this. He says, "Nope, computer won't turn on." He says, "Well, is it plugged in?" "Yeah, it's plugged in." And he says, "Well, can you tell me if this light's on?" And this was not a blind person. He says, "No, I can't because the power's out." And then supposedly the old wives' tale person says, "Okay, I'm going to need you do you have the box for that computer? Because I'm going to need you to box it back and send it back to us because you're too dumb to use a computer." I'll tell you what, the PC is definitely, in fact, I'm seeing articles come out that Microsoft is being called the tech company of 2018, and a lot of that has to come with their innovation. They're innovating better than Apple. I feel they're making bigger, I mean, they had further to go with accessibility, but I've been very, very impressed with the direction of Microsoft Narrator, and now, who knows, with this subscription package, maybe next year I'll start playing around with JAWS. I still need to get my narrator skills up there, and then after that, I have a lot to do next year. I have NVDA I have to learn, I have narrator I have to learn, but the one thing I don't have to learn is the Mac and voiceover. I'll tell you, Jeff, I know you're a Mac voiceover user. I have been very, very happy with Mac OS Mojave. Outside of a few...
Whoa. Well, you use
happy.
A tech term and happy in the same sentence.
That is correct. I've been thrilled with Mojave.
See what you're doing to this guy, Ed?
Not me. He's like morphing into something that, or someone that I don't recognize.
And if you have any idea what Brian is morphing into, send us your response at thatblindtechshow@gmail.com or on Twitter @blindtechshow.
I'm becoming my biggest fear in the world, Ed, a happy, well-adjusted person.
The stars are in alignment, my friend.
It's having a negative impact on my stand-up career, because you don't see too many happy, well-adjusted comics these days, We all have issues.
I don't think that's true, Brian. I mean, I was at your recent Laugh for Sight show, and I thought you did a great set. Aside from the show being a great show, I thought your set was really good as well.
Thanks. Am I supposed to pay you on air or off air? And do you accept Bitcoin even though it's declining greatly?
I got my year-end check from your mother yesterday, so we're good to go.
That's true. Good to hear. And it cleared. It didn't bounce this year, right?
I don't know.
Better check that account. Now, Jeff, getting back to Mac OS Mojave, what are your thoughts using it for a while now?
Mojave. It's the operating system for the Mac. It's like Windows is to the PC. It works for me. I do a lot of media production. I do a lot of stuff with the internet, and I can do all that with the accessibility the Mac gives me. Now, if you're a transition age student and you're going to be transitioning from high school to college to the workplace, I would highly suggest that you look into the accessibility of the screen readers like Navigator, JAWS, NVDA, and have them under your belt because you need the tools in your toolbox to succeed. And most of the companies out there are using some type of Windows-based operating system. Microsoft has that market. And for instance, when I'm navigating a government site, I have trouble navigating those sites with Safari. But for me, in my situation, I use the Mac because it does what I need it to do. But if I had to interact with other companies' databases, I'd be in a pickle. Thus, the necessity for me to have Office 365 for the Mac installed.
Jeff, you work for the government? I knew there was something sneaky about you. The truth is out there, my friend. So, yeah, one thing that we've learned at the end of 2018, the Mac is doing great. I just got the new Mac Air, which will be coming out with a demo of how I use it. And one thing that I really love, I finally got that iCloud drive up and running real well, where my entire desktop and my documents folder are syncing great. So whether I'm using my iMac desktop or my Mac Air laptop, I've got all the important documents, as well as on my iPhone with the iCloud drive and everything. I am paying for that $9.99. I think 2 terabytes of storage, but it's nice to know that wherever I am, I've got all my documents, my email, and everything I need. Ed, how's Microsoft doing these days with syncing across devices?
Actually, it's getting better and better. I mean, that's the one thing that I really liked with dealing with iOS is I've never had any problems dealing with any on an iPhone, iPad, and syncing across whether it's a PC side or whether it's a Mac side. It's just worked really well. And Microsoft's done some nice development on just the apps alone that are available on iOS. I mean, Seeing AI is a fabulous app. You introduced me to Microsoft's To Do recently, and I checked that out quickly, and that's a phenomenal app as well.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Microsoft To Do. If you're looking for a to-do list, it is fantastic, and they're constantly making enhancements and improvements as well as accessibility improvements. Obviously, with Microsoft's iOS apps, they're making sure everything works perfectly with VoiceOver. And my one complaint that I could have about Apple, and that's just something that's going to concern me as I jump more onto the PC side of things, I imagine to access all my content, I'll be having to use iCloud.com on the PC side of things, and they just cannot get accessibility working real well. There's a lot of issues still, even with VoiceOver on the Mac on iCloud.com. Have you played around with iCloud.com recently, Jeff?
No, I don't use it on the web.
Yeah, it's accessibility issues. I mean, it is mostly accessible, but you shouldn't have these kind of navigation and focus issues and everything.
Hey, Jeff, as an Office 365 subscriber, do you use OneDrive for the cloud?
Well, because I do have the whole Apple orchard going for me, I do use Apple's iCloud. And because I am a subscriber to the Office 365 for the Mac, Microsoft gives me 1 terabyte of storage on OneDrive. So 6 to 8 months ago, I was tempted to use that. And I found that syncing across the networks like that didn't work so good all the time. And it just seems to be a better fit for me to be using the iCloud from Apple. However, this was 6 months ago that I was trying all this. Maybe they've improved. I'm not sure about that. But yeah, it's nice to have availability, but it's really hard to really cross-synchronize everything.
Okay.
8-9 months ago, that's like 50 years in tech time, Jeff. I'm sure it's working fine now. So
I actually had to take the OneDrive app off my iPhone because I keep all my described movies in OneDrive, and I had about 35 to 40 gigabytes of described movies. And I realized why I had no space on my iPhone is because it wasn't staying in the cloud. OneDrive kept downloading it to my device, and I was like, oh, this isn't working. I tried to find a setting that would leave everything in the cloud. I could not find it, so I just removed it.
Yeah, and you've got so many great cloud services. I mean, if you're not in the cloud nowadays, you're just not cool. You got iCloud. I know, Jeff, you're a big fan of Dropbox. I still have the minimal storage on Dropbox. You got Google Drive. Amazon even has a cloud service. Have either of you guys played around with Amazon's cloud service at all?
No.
I have not.
I'm assuming we were hearing crickets there and everything.
Well, it's supposed to be actually pretty good because Amazon does have one of the biggest cloud services in the world.
That's true. It's a $1 trillion cloud service. You know, one thing that would be cool, and I don't know if we could do this, if I was able to store my described video audio content in the Amazon cloud and easily access it on my A-Lady, that'd be pretty cool to listen to my content on my A-Lady. I'll have to look into that. Last time I checked on the Mac, you had to download the Amazon, I believe it was Drive, and it had a lot of accessibility issues, but I haven't checked that in over 6 months, which we know is about 25 years in tech time. So lots of choices.
Yeah, that's a good point, Brian. If you could actually take all of your described videos, your songs, your music, and store them in the Amazon cloud, and then be able to easily access them through the Amazon devices, I mean, that would be great. That's definitely something to look into for 2019.
Yeah, it'd be great to just say, hey, lady, play solo from my Amazon cloud. What I've been doing is from my iPad, I've been, as I mentioned, I believe on the last episode, I've been taking a lot of my, and these are just MP3 files, my described video titles from my iCloud drive and storing them in Voice Stream. Is it Voice Stream or Voice Dream? I always get it wrong.
Dream.
Voice Dream.
It's just a dream, Brian.
It's just a dream. Not to be confused with Dreamweaver, but Voice Dream, fantastic app. And what I've been doing is then airplaying it from Voice Dream to my Sonos speaker and really getting some great sounding movies to listen to and everything. So lots of options, as you always will learn on That Blind Tech Show. The one thing none of us seem to be using or even exploring are Chromebooks. Ed, have you played around with Chromebooks at all?
No, I've been looking at them. It's just, you can only do so much.
Yeah, I know they're using them in schools a lot, but I've not heard great things as far as Chromebox and accessibility. How about yourself, Jeff? Have you touched a Chromebook before?
One of the things that really concerns me about the Chromebooks, it seems to be a hot item for school districts, K through 12, to issue to students in the classroom when accessibility is not really quite there, as Ed just mentioned. The other thing is, I was at the NFB convention and I went to the Google booth and I asked about the tablet there, and they said, well, that person wasn't around that worked on that. Now, I wish Donald Trump would have been there because I'm sure he could have showed me all there was to know about the Chromebook.
In comedy, that's what we call a great comeback. Great comeback. Sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
I just want to add to what Ed was saying about the Chromebook. Same thing with the Amazon tablets. If these devices are being given to kids and they have to use them all the time, maybe they figure out something that works. But in my experience, they lack a little bit of something that the Apple products are doing well. These devices do not do as well. It's getting better, but it's not at a competitive speed in education. And for those people who have a Mac and want to boot camp it with the PC and put JAWS on there as well, you might as well just get yourself a PC, because you will tend to go right to what works best for you. I go to the iPad. I don't give the Amazon tablet as big of a chance because I can efficiently get this done on the iPad because I'm used to it. And that's how it is when you're boot camping stuff from PC to a Mac. You're going to go to the one that works best and most efficient to you.
Yeah, boot camp for me was fun for about a day. Then I got rid of my virtual machine. But Ed, you know what I have on my Microsoft to-do list for next year?
What's that?
I plan to take the Donald J. Trump Chromevox Chromebook course. That's on my Microsoft to-do list towards the top and everything. So
I'll give you another Microsoft to-do list. Apparently, Microsoft is abandoning their internet browser engine. So Edge is going to end up taking a major rebuilding. So they're going to abandon the internet browser engine that they developed to release Edge, and they're going to port over to Chromium. So the basic foundation I don't know if it's going to be continued to be called Edge or not. It'll be based on the same platform that Google Chrome is built on.
now, as somebody who's just started exploring the PC and has been using Narrator more, I've heard, and Ed, you could correct me if I'm wrong, which we know I'm wrong often. If there's 24 hours in a day, odds are I'm wrong 23 times a day. I've heard Narrator works great in Edge, but other screen readers not so much. Is that still the case?
Yeah, it's just not that great using assistive technology. I mean, I think I still get a JAWS warning every time I fire up Edge and I have JAWS running. May not be the best way to go forward.
You know what's funny? I heard that JAWS and NVDA put all their resources in getting their screen readers to work with Edge, only for Microsoft to get rid of Edge.
Yeah, isn't that amazing how they got the whole platform? But it was a disaster from the get-go. I mean, they spent all this time, money, effort to release this new internet browser. And when it first came out, it wasn't accessible. There was no thought put into it for accessibility. And I think that's just, it was incredible. And I give them a lot of credit at this point to turn around and say, you know what, we're going to fix this.
So what you're telling me, Ed, is that I've downloaded Microsoft Edge to my iPhone. I've yet to open it, but you're saying I could probably delete it.
What runs on your iPhone is probably a lot different than what runs on the PC platform.
Yeah, and Ed, I have to ask you, because before I went blind, my go-to browser on the PC was Firefox. I've heard they've been a little slow on the uptake with accessibility. When you're teaching a new student, what is your go-to browser on the PC these days?
Our go-to browser is still Internet Explorer.
Not 2.0 though, right?
That's what we use for accessibility. That's what is installed as the default browser by the supplier that puts the computers together that are ordered for all of our consumers and students. So it is currently what we teach. I just was able to get Google Chrome approved to be put on all of our computers in our lab, because 80% of the students coming in, they're using Google Docs, they're using Google Drive, they're using Google Chrome. So we are with Google Chrome now.
And how much did Google pay you to make that happen?
Or to say it on this podcast.
Yeah.
That's true.
Blind bargain.
That's true. Yeah, I love Safari, as somebody that plays around with an iPhone, an iPad, a Mac Air. I just love that, say I have a tab open on my computer, I should just go to tabs and it'll pull up all my tabs open on other devices, which means always close down tabs you don't want anybody else to see, right, Jeff?
Well, Brian, if you have tabs like that, then you keep your devices to yourself and we'll keep our devices to ourselves. Now, Ed, when you're talking about Google Docs and stuff and teaching, and you teach the Google platforms, it's kind of interesting because K through 12 is going to have Google Docs, and
you got kindergartners using Google Docs. I can't use Google Docs on the Mac.
Brian, that's Google Blocks. Google Blocks. However, I have not seen any colleges utilize Google Docs. They all have their own peripheral type of systems, doc sharing system that the teachers use. So what do you do to prepare students to go on to college?
Jeff, I hate to correct you. I do know one college that's using Google Docs exclusively, Clown College.
Yeah, Jeff is right. I see Google Docs in the grade schools and I see it in the high schools, but when college, I know that when we send students off, if we configure equipment for them that is sponsored by the state of New York, it includes the Microsoft Office suite.
Well, as I mentioned, my go-to thing is Safari, but one thing I have noticed is still not all websites do play well with Safari. For example, I'm in an online college bowl pick'em, and this is a confidence pool where you pick the teams and then you order all the bowl games. We believe we've got 40 bowl games, which blows my mind. 40-1, well, picking the numbers 40-1 was not accessible in Safari. So the great thing, what I did was in the development menu on Safari, I had the drop-down open in Google Chrome, and sure enough, those drop-downs were fully accessible on the Mac in Google Chrome. So it's always good probably to have a choice of screen readers to use because something might not be accessible in one, and this is both on the PC and Mac, and it might be accessible in another. Do you find that being the case at times, Jeff?
What I find is YouTube works great on Google Chrome.
Well, that's obviously because it's a Google device. Well, how about on the PC, Ed? Have you heard about things? I know you primarily teach IE. Have you heard about things not necessarily working in IE that might work in other browsers with a screen reader?
Not so much. I do know that there are things that still work well with JAWS in IE that may not work that well in Firefox. Chrome, I'm spending more and more time on. I was not a big fan of it because I did morph from a low vision computer user to strictly a JAWS user at this point. I still have some sight, and there are still some issues with Chrome where I just cannot get the white background in some sections of the screen to go to high contrast with a black background mode. It'll still bring up this large white block, which just irritates me when I'm sitting in front of that for more than a half an hour.
Here at That Blind Tech Show, Ed, I don't believe you're rocking one of those Apple Watches yet, but Jeff is, and I'm kind of curious, Jeff. Are you using all of the great health monitoring features on the Apple Watch?
Well, not really, because I have the second one that's out. There's been the third, now the fourth, and you guys, I think you got the fourth, right, Brian?
I do. I have to have the newest, greatest thing.
Yeah, and that just came to light right now that you're able to monitor your heartbeat.
Yeah, I was thrilled. I just went to the doctor to get some paperwork filled out at the end of the year and was surprised to find out I do have a heart. So I just recently started monitoring it. When I first got my Apple Watch, Ed, I went to the Apple store and I'm sitting there and they ask you a bunch of questions. I actually had them help me set it up. And the guy says, "How much do you weigh?" And this was before the massive weight loss. I said, "I don't think so, pal." You don't say those kind of numbers in public, And
so, Brian, now when you instead of a doctor appointment, don't you just send your watch?
That's true. I have yet to get that. I believe it's the EKG setup, which they finally. Ed, I used to love when Apple would announce things like right before they'd come out, not like 6 months before they're eligible to come out. So I've yet to get that new EKG monitoring thing going. But my mom, who is a new Apple Watch user, has already gotten that set up, and she had a little trouble taking the first 2 scans, but she's got it working. And we are curious to hear if anybody is using the new EKG scan with VoiceOver, and then just sending your watch into the doctor instead of you being waiting in that waiting room for 2 hours. But Ed, as the Apple Watch continues to get better and better, are you thinking about 2019, the year of the Apple Watch for Team Ed?
I'm actually thinking a lot about wearables. I think that is going to be the next big promotion and innovation coming is with wearables and health. And I'm seeing that now. A lot of people are using the Aira, O-U-R-A, Aura rings to monitor their sleep patterns and their interval heart rates and things like that. So people want things that are less intrusive, but want something that can collect a lot of data. And we're seeing that also with the Libra system for measuring glucose, where it's you just taking a reading off a little plug that's in the back of your arm, so you don't have to be pricking your finger every day. So for health purposes, especially for blind people, a lot of this stuff is really, really starting to integrate, because if it works well with smartphones and tablets and things like that, it will be accessible.
So do you think people should be concerned if in the future they start receiving advertisements about funeral homes and cemetery stones?
I get that now from Google.
No, I think they should be concerned if they say, "We just noticed your heart health and we're suggesting you take out a plot very soon."
Your heart is still on the plane.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it'll be bad if the ambulance shows up at your front door just before you have your heart attack.
You don't even have to call. Remember, the last episode we talked about AI that'll predict future crimes. times, AI that predict future death. Now that's frightening.
Yeah. Well, what was it? What was that television series that was on where they were using social media to solve crimes and things like that?
It was a great show until we found out the lead, Jeremy Piven, was sexually harassing all of his female co-stars, and it got canceled. So,
they canceled it?
They canceled it immediately when they found out Jeremy Piven was a bad boy. Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
You know, that's kind of sad what you guys were saying about, say you're having a heart attack and all of a sudden the hearse pulls up. But what's bad about it is your hearing goes last. You'll hear calling ambulance, canceling ambulance, calling Hearst.
Either that or you get a notification that pops up. You might want to say goodbye to all your friends and loved ones real soon.
Oh.
Hey, that's the way we're headed and everything. So I got to get a will going, actually. You know, I'm getting to that point of thinking about that stuff. And
that point of the podcast?
Don't forget how to spell my last name and Jeff's last name then. Brian.
Well, it was a good year, so yeah.
You know the podcast is going bad when you start thinking about a will.
What about a notification that pops up? You might want to say farewell on your next episode of That Blind Tech Show because something's happening very soon.
It's not just the end of the year podcast, Brian.
We can't tell you when, we can't tell you where, but it's gonna happen. So I guess in the tech industry, we could call 2018 the year of Pinocchio because we had an awful lot of great tech lies and whoppers, Ed. This is a great article we'll include in the show notes. Ed, did you get a chance to take a look at this? And if so, do you have a favorite tech lie of 2018 that made the list or one that's not on the list?
The one that's not on the list is the one I mentioned to you just before we started doing the show. And I said, if Donald Trump's tweet had come out 2 weeks ago, it would be on that list. About him being the greatest technology person in the world. But Amazon and Facebook, I was tossing up between, which one of those was the ones I thought was the biggest lie. Amazon just pushing so hard to put another headquarters in the United States. And, they milked and built 2 major cities, millions and millions of dollars. And, cities like, from Indiana and things like that, which really thought they were in the running, Tucson, things like that. They're just left to the wayside. And what do? They've picked the 2 cities that will have the most political influence for them for moving forward. So,
I'm going to chime in because this was my number one tech lie of the year, Amazon. And think about how many of these cities wasted resources when they had really no shot at all. These were the cities, New York City, as well as, Virginia or D.C. area?
Alexandria, Virginia, the suburb of D.C., yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because my best friend lives in Alexandria, and I am, as somebody who lives in Astoria, which is also considered Long Island City, not too happy about this because I think the cost of living and what this is going to do, the area is already overcrowded. This is not a good thing, Amazon coming here. And interestingly enough, the politicians made this choice without really any of their constituents' feedback because they're holding council meetings now, and Amazon is getting slammed in New York City. So not a great thing. Jeff, how about you? Favorite choice from this list or something else that didn't make the list?
Well, I think what didn't make the list is it's the new tendency for Apple to announce products that don't ever exist. One way to charge your phone is the nebulous pad charger. I don't even think it should have a name because it doesn't exist.
Yeah, but AirPower, not happening. New AirPods, not happening. And actually, I do have 2 more that didn't make the list that the blind tech community cares about. One of them is companies that tell you they're going to fix accessibility, but never do. And yeah, I'm talking about you, Sleeper Bot, you're dead to me, and a couple of other companies that I won't name. And the other one, which thankfully I don't really have to use as much, thanks to the way things have been improved, but Accessoride. Ed in New York City telling you, your ride's 5 minutes away, and then you ask them where it is, and they say, well, you're on 42nd Street in Manhattan, and your ride is in Brooklyn, but they'll be there in 5 minutes. In what universe is that possible, Ed?
Well, when the dispatcher is in Dallas, Texas, what do you expect?
Very true, very true. So let us know if you had a favorite tech lie of 2018. Hit us up on the Twitter at Blind Tech Show or email us in at thatblindtechshow@gmail.com. I'll tell you, there's a great article. If you don't normally look at the show notes, this is one article that is just probably one of the most interesting reads I've ever had. And this was an article that came out about children in 1904 and what they thought the future would look like in 1919, 15 years from then, and then what they thought the future might look like in 2019, 100 years, or I guess 2004 from then. Ed, what were your thoughts about this article?
I thought it was very interesting, and some of the stuff that that they were thinking of and talking about, appeared to be almost spot on with where we are. Like you said, with the conversation we had about it a little bit before the show, is that giving a thought about where we would be in 20 years or 10 years, and it's moving exponentially quick now. It was a 100-year difference. Yeah, we had some significant strides, but even thinking about where we were in 2005 compared to 2018 or 2020, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah. Now, my favorite, Jeff, on this was the kid coming up. In the future, people will travel everywhere by bouncy shoes, but some of these little kids were and Jeff, this is probably hits close to home because a lot of these, actually all of these articles were taken from a Minnesota newspaper. I'm telling you, these kids were basically predicting, they were the Nostradamus of their time, because I think they predicted elevators, escalators, as well as the Roomba vacuum. They were a few years off on that. What were your favorite parts of this article, Jeff?
I think that was it. When he went into the kitchen, they stick the dishes in one thing and come out clean on the other side. There's a dishwasher, or the Roomba, the thing that was collecting up the dust, or the choice to either take the landline or the air line, which would go diagonally. You wouldn't have to follow the blocks. So, I mean, they even went to Mars.
Yeah.
1900, why not?
Yeah, I mean, this article is just absolutely fascinating to me. And
you know what I'm fascinated about, though, Brian? I didn't know Minnesota had newspapers in 1904.
That's true. I thought they were still, traveling Paul Revere style and getting the news. One if by sea, two if by land. Have I got that backwards too? Like I get everything.
That's
backwards.
Boston, Brian.
Oh, Boston. Yeah.
When the Canadians and the Mounties come down from there, we'll have to figure something out real quick.
So one of the other last fascinating parts, because I'll let you read this and I won't spoil all of it for you, was the kid who said in the future we'll live in small rooms. I'm like, oh, he's predicting a Manhattan apartment, but we'll look out the window and be able to see the world and everything that's going on. It's almost like he was predicting the internet, Jeff.
Or a television.
Fine, ruined my point. I thought I was making a great point there. A television or a telephone or one of a billion different things that we can now use to connect people.
Or a podcast, because that's how we see the world.
That's true. He was predicting podcasting.
Well, that's how I hear the world anyway.
Well, getting back to the other question that this article made me think of, Ed, it's the close of 2018. Where would you like to see maybe assistive technology go in 2019?
Well, I think it's going in the direction I'd like to see it go in, which is affordable accessibility for more people. We were all impressed and happy when the iPhone came out and built-in accessibility was part of the hardware configuration and operating system that you were able to do it. You didn't have to spend a lot of extra money. Mac coming out and making voiceover part of that. Narrator now making it easy for someone who is totally blind to open up a Windows 10 computer out of the box and set it up themselves. This is working well. JAWS, which has been cost prohibitive for so many people for so long, coming out with a subscription model. I just think that we're heading in the right direction.
That's great. That's well spoken. Now, Jeff, how about yourself? 2019, and just so you're well aware, because I know math is not your strong suit. That's only a few days from now. I was going to say a year from now, but obviously math's not my strong suit. Where would you like to see assistive technology head in the very near future?
Something to do with memory, because last podcast you said math was my strong suit.
I changed from. I'm very wishy-washy. I changed from episode to episode.
No, in 2019, I like exactly what Ed said: affordability, usability, inclusiveness, all that with technology. The one thing that I really would like to see is to solidify that it's real, that this accessibility that companies are putting, that are applying to products and into their software, that they're continuing to do it and maintain it along with, their product itself, that to make it part of the company. And that's something I think that Microsoft has shown over the last couple of years, that they've really embraced accessibility and inclusiveness. Apple's been there, but I just want to see that it continues.
Yeah, I'm going to start off very selfishly because I've been asking Santa, Hanukkah Harry, the Tooth Fairy for just one thing in the very near future, and I'm hearing rumors it could be happening, and that is the iPad Mini 5. So that's on the top of my wish list. And I know that's not really thinking too advanced, but I'm very interested to see where all this voice technology goes, because this has been the year with air conditions. We've had the Nest for a few more years, window air conditioning units that I could control and do so much with my voice, changing the temperature or asking what the temperature is, controlling my microwave with my voice. And I know they have refrigerators on the markets that can do this, and you can now control your television. So I'm really, really interested to see where this next level of voice technology goes in 2019.
Well, one of the topics that is out there is deep learning. But when I think about Facebook and them investigating in deep learning, makes you go,
Well, that's why they're reading Brian's messages, Jeff, because they're really trying to get into deep learning.
There you go. That's a study.
I think that's the opposite. Yeah. So, well, that was the easy question, 2019, and you'll love how bad at math I am. So I was thinking further down the road, and I originally, when I put the outline together, I'm like, where would you like to see assistive technology in 2020? Then I realized that was only 2 years, and that wasn't much of a question. So Ed, and this is a little difficult, where would you like to see assistive technology in, say, 2030, 12 years from now?
In 2030, I think there's a good chance we could see a subscription-based autonomous car service.
That would be pretty cool.
A Hearst. Yeah, autonomous Hearst. Take me to the cemetery. It only has to go one place. It'll probably work pretty good.
And if it doesn't, you're not going to care anyway.
How about yourself, Jeff? Any thoughts about the year 2030 if you're still with us?
Well, I'm searching for the word where...
Well, I might have confused you. I didn't mean still with That Blind Tech Show. I meant on Earth and alive.
Ed is back.
Yeah, but knowing how often the Lighthouse likes to sell their buildings, I'm sure they'll be moving by 2030 again.
In 2030, I'm really looking forward to what I think would be really good, because some of us, visually impaired blind people, we get pent up and we want to release something. Aira boxing. Yeah. Put on the gear. You're wearing the glasses. You connect up to an agent, and this is an agent that's trained for blind people to, help them and stuff, where they'll have a monitor, a screen. They can watch your opponent. They can give you clues and stuff like that. I could see it now. In this corner, cool blind tech, and in the other corner, blind bargains, and they'd go at it. The agents would be tuned in. What do you think, Brian?
I think it's great. Honestly, Ed, I think this is the only answer for where the next Rocky movie can go. In this corner, Rocky Balboa, 80 years old with his Aira agent. And in the other corner, Ivan Drago. So, yeah, Aira boxing. That would be really, really cool and everything.
Yeah. The only thing is they'd have to mount the camera in the middle of your forehead because you couldn't be wearing a pair of glasses.
Yeah, well, with gear, we're all about safety.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, headgear. Okay.
It's fascinating to me to have both of you here because we do have a lot in common, more than just this, but one thing we have in common that I know you both love is what's pissing off Brian now. And of course, end of the year, we've got one last thing, just one, that's really been pissing me off. And I've noticed that it's been on the uptake these last few days, Ed. Robot phone calls. I'm getting nothing but nonstop robot phone calls at the end of the year about health insurance, about everything. Are robot phone calls pissing you off too, Ed?
You know what, Brian? I guess someone has an algorithm out there, and as they said, Brian Fischler needs more robot phone calls. So I have not been getting an overabundance of robot phone calls going into the end of the year.
Now, this has just been happening to me on my landline, not on the iPhone. And it's actually making me finally think it is 2019. Maybe I should get rid of that landline, although I do still like having it. But I am finally beginning to say, why do I have this? I can make all the phone calls from the iPhone where I don't get outside outside of the phone call that tries to mimic my number, which I know not to answer,
Right.
I don't really get very many robot phone calls on the iPhone.
All my spam phone calls are forwarded to some guy in New York.
That explains it. That explains it all.
Yeah, well, I didn't realize you still have a landline. I got rid of my landline probably 8 years ago.
Wow.
Well, you're a modern man. I'm old school, dude. I need the comfort of that handheld phone that says...
Is that still how you talk to John Bon Jovi?
I talk to John Bon Jovi that way. I talk to my TiVo that way. I talk to the Golden Girls on my... It's amazing. Not only can this phone... On the landline. This phone, it's like Back to the Future, man. Well, that was just a fascinating look of where we may go. I just hope we have hovercrafts and that sort of thing. Only time will tell where we'll get to. But and just so people think, it's not like Ed and I haven't spoken since we hang out and grab drinks and everything. But Ed, what do you got coming up? Obviously, when this comes out, some of the holiday season will pass us by. But what do you got coming up for the holidays?
Actually, I'm on vacation starting today. I'll be off for almost 3 weeks, so 19 days. So 19 days of vacation, well earned and well deserved.
That's awesome. That's awesome. How about yourself there, Jeff? Have you gotten through? I know you celebrate 2 Christmases. Have you gotten through the first one?
Yeah, made it through. Scored pretty good. I actually got that Groucho Marx nose with the mustache and the glasses.
I thought that was your usual everyday look.
Is that the new Aira glasses?
It's a little more affordable from Ben Franklin, but hey, it doesn't help you at all, but people don't know you're blind. Yeah, we made it through that. We got another one coming up, and then looking forward to New Year's, and yeah, a lot of good stuff coming up. 2019, who would have thought about it,
And unfortunately, we don't have anything exciting happening at the end of this year, like the end of the Mayan calendar or Y2K, exciting stuff that never panned out. I still don't even know what I'm doing on that Xmas Day or New Year's and everything. I always like to wait till the last minute and everything. I'm betting it will probably have something to do with an adult beverage or two, though. Well, for now and for 2018, we are That Blind Tech Show. You could download us by searching for That Blind Tech Show in your podcast player of choice. You could download us through BAPE, the Blind Abilities Podcast Empire, through their podcast feed, the website. You can ask your A lady to play us. You can ask your G lady to play us. We're all over the place. And for now, 2018, we are out.
I think he left out the carrier pigeon.
The carrier pigeon?
iHeartRadio, iTunes Radio. Come on, guy.
When we share
what we see through each other's eyes, we can then begin to bridge the gap between
the limited expectations and the realities of blind abilities.
The realities of blind abilities.
For more podcasts with a blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com, on Twitter at blindabilities. Download our app from the App Store, blindabilities, that's 2 words, or send us an email at info@blindabilities.com. Thanks for listening.